So it sounds like you've been on the right side. I don't know, conservative, but it sounds like you've had some sense for a long
Thank
time.
you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
I didn't know what I was. I knew when I worked in Hollywood, I knew that I wasn't them, and I didn't even know what them were. I didn't know what it was called, but I knew that I wasn't that. And
Yeah,
I knew that I loved the military, and I knew that I loved God, and I knew I was grateful, and that sort of disqualified me from that group over there. But I didn't know it was called Republican or conservative.
I did not. I didn't know I was a conservative until I was called that when I
Oh,
moved to Michigan. I am a reflection of my dad's instructions, and believe it or not, he died when I was 12 years of age.
oh wow.
But he put so much in me that when I went through some of the traumas and trials and tribulations that I did go through
Mhm.
later in life, had it not been for him and the things that he took the time out to teach me, because I don't know, I was an odd child. I was bored with my counterparts, with my cadres, and I felt more comfortable talking to the adults.
Uh huh.
And he was very patient with me, and he would talk to me about history. He talked to me about the greatness of this country, the
Wow.
importance of God, and he would read with me the Constitution and things of that nature.
Where's he
So
from? The
my
South?
dad, he was from Georgia. Um, both my parents were from Georgia.
Interesting. Mine were
One
too,
was
by
from
the way.
Savannah, and the other was from, I think, I know my mom was from Savannah, and my dad, I think he was from Macon, and he was into real estate. She was a teacher. They were just, average middle class folk. And, and our neighborhood was very unique. I was blessed. I was surrounded by Italians and Polish. It was a full mixture. We had an American Indian family in the corner, and there were a smattering of blacks. And the blacks that were there, it was like my dentist, Dr. Roseman, he was black, and Mrs. Jones, a teacher. So there was a mixture of people, but everybody was about the business of just living, and we were just, we weren't rich by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination, but we were just good folk. Every Independence Day, everyone, black, white, or whatever, had their flags out. Christmas, we were very close neighbors. Sometimes we'd even connect our lights at Christmas time. It would
Wow.
just be so beautiful. So those things really made me appreciate this country. So no matter what was
Wow.
thrown at
Yeah.
me in my adult life, that kept me from probably going over the edge like other people. So what was thrown at me, I said, that just doesn't jive. I don't like that. That doesn't fit with what I was taught. But
Well,
that
it's so interesting that the liberals tout this idea of coexisting, but never have they ever given us an example of what that looks like. You just gave an example of coexisting. And you can
yeah,
do that without mandating it, legislating it, being
yeah,
angry with people, rioting. That's their tactic. You can do it by just coexisting and having a cohesive American dream and everybody working together. My neighborhood is very similar, where I grew up, very similar to that. And it's funny because how I started this whole venture of getting back on the air again is I wanted to do a documentary about black conservatives to find some commonalities and some things that we can relate to and understand how did we, because I'm always curious, how did you get there? And hearing you talk, your background is very much like mine. Um, I lived probably in a more predominantly black neighborhood, but we didn't have the bitterness. There wasn't that bitterness. There was
that's
this
good.
term that you can't use anymore, and you probably heard it when you were younger, is being a credit to your race. And
Yeah, seen
that
it in those old movies and stuff. Yeah.
hey, am I
Um,
that much older than you? But now you
but,
can't
but,
say that anymore because
but it's
that's
so,
deemed a racist term.
but it's so weird because it was like 2 years before my father passed away. We were looking to move, saw the houses and everything, and many of our neighbors, good neighbors, were also on the way out. He, he got sick, and within 2 years he was dead. But while he was dying,
Hmm.
my neighborhood died too. All those good neighbors died.
Mm.
We were supposed to be one of them too, and they were replaced by goons, most of whom were black. And they represented a lifestyle that it was totally foreign to me. Fighting, all kinds of trouble. You have to fight your way to school. I mean, the white kids, I never went through all that.
Right.
And so that toughened me up really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept in my head what Dad had taught me. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to get back to that stuff. And I'm going to have to fight my way through this. But the neighborhood died along with him.
What's your response to the left saying or depicting people like you and I as not black enough? Because we know it's about what.
See, you know what?
We're not in touch with our blackness. Maybe you didn't like black people, and you related more to the white people, and that's who you think you are.
It's not about. But see, that's where my dad was how he taught me. It's not about black or white. It's about right or wrong, and it's about principles, not party, not color, whatever. It's about principles. What do you want in your life? What is your thinking about? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in country? Do you believe in working? Do you believe in owning a business? Do you believe in those good basic things? Do you believe in the family? I mean, they're very simple, basic pablum level stuff. And when I was assaulted like that verbally, you're not black. You don't think I'm like as dark as I am. You're gonna tell me I'm not.
Right. You talk white. You talk white.
Yeah. And so therefore you think that. So what is it? In order to be black, you have to be stupid. You have to speak in proper English. You have to hate the country. You have to want to kill your babies. You have to want to be a criminal. I mean, what is it? Do you want to live like an idiot? And then you turn around and say, white man, he racist. That's why I ain't good enough. So you're too stupid to blame yourself for your own position in life. 90% of the problems that you have in your life are indirectly caused by yourself.
All of my problems in my life are caused by me.
I give 10% just to, you know what I mean? Because of big government.
Okay.
But you know what? For me, school was vacation.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was a good academic student, so it was like, and then my high school had a radio station, so I got into that. Then I got a job at a regular radio station at 16 through a contest. So I had those positive outlets. I was into football, so I had all of that going.
Wow. And you said that school was your escape from family. You're the second person who said that on my show who is a conservative, and I felt that way too. I couldn't wait to go to school to get away from the liberal side of the family, not my father, who was a Republican. And then, in fact, I'm actually named after my father. I don't use my full name on the air, but I'm named after him. But did you feel that God was with you during that time when it could feel so you had so much maybe loneliness or you were set aside from your family or told these lies? Did you know that God was with you?
My mom was a teacher, and many of her friends, one of her best friends who lived on our street was the principal of my high school.
Okay.
And my mom is, she'd be basing me out or something like Mrs. Green would come by. Oh, your son was so wonderful, this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And so I used to call it, excuse the language, bullshit compensation, because of the bullshit that I would catch at home. God always provided positive feedback to what I was really trying to do, and they would remind me to keep me from going to Nutsville and being black,
you know what? And like I said, I wanted to do this documentary to show the commonalities. Yeah. We may be separated at birth. My mom was the liberal, my sister as well, and some of those relatives, and they always put me down, always told me that I was ugly, and I was this, and I was that, and I was never going to amount to anything. I believe that. I still struggle with that. I just like listen to my friends and move forward with it.
You're kidding me. There were times I did not know that he was with me. I did not think he cared because I looked at the fact that Dad was a great man, and why did he have to check out?
Yeah.
But the lifestyle also changed after he passed, because then it was down to the one teacher income, and so things were a bit different, and we weren't able to make that escape. And I had, I went through hell until high school. Until high school, I was blessed. She got me into a very good high school.
Yeah.
personality and everything. I had a high school radio station, and it was just
think
great.
you were
Great football
separated at
program.
birth, Ron. So now you're talking about you had a father influence in your life. Now we're looking at upwards of 90% single parent households on the, you know, women are raising their own children, black children nowadays. How do we turn this ship around? How do we combat the music videos and the lifestyle and all that says that it's cool for black men to abandon their families, to not be that positive influence that you're talking about, and sometimes if the influence they think is positive, it's anti-American, it's hate, and it's anger. How do we turn this around?
Well, I'll start with a question that I asked. It was a group of chatty black females. This was years ago.
Chatty black females? Does that sort of thing exist?
They were just going on, just reaming against black men. I actually against men in general, but most hatefully towards black men. And I'm sitting there. I'm just sitting here watching this. And I said, you know what? I just want to ask you ladies one question. And I mean this with the most amount of respect that you all deserve, which I kept to myself, which I didn't think they deserved any.
Right, at this point, I'm not sure.
All the respect I think you deserve. I have one question. I said, you all do. You all were bragging about how females are raising most of the babies and all of that. You all are superior to men. You all are more intelligent than men. And they were like, yeah. Everything I was saying, yeah. And so they didn't realize I was leading up to something. I said, okay, I'll give it to you. You all are superior. You all are doing all the work as far as raising the babies and all of that. I said, but there's one little bitty problem I've got to ask you about. Since you all are doing all of it, and you all have all the influence, oh yeah. And they're like, yeah. You all have all the influence, and you all are doing all the raising. Well, why is it? Why in Sand Hill, with you all doing all the work, you have produced the worst generation and the most bitter generation of black men in the history of the United States of America.
Ouch.
Yeah, one of them did say ouch.
Good.
And because there was, shockingly, a modicum of actual intelligence in their ranks, they said, yeah, that's a hell of a question. And they said, you got to think about that. And I almost.
That's amazing, and I'm happy that they gave it a moment to even consider thinking about it. I hope that they understood. I mean, I always play this game with myself called, it's like the 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon game, but I can always attribute all of my hardships back to liberalism. And I can guarantee you that, and I was a single parent. I have 2 children from no marriages, 2 different baby daddies, the whole liberal lifestyle, right? And I attribute it to those values that I gained from being a liberal. One of my children's fathers told her that she's going to have it easy because she's a black female, and there's going to be all these doors open to her. And I'm like, that's now how I'm raising her. I'm raising her to hold her own, So, and he was a liberal. This guy was a raging liberal. So, but with liberals, they can also teach that side of hatred you're not going to have because you're black. It's going to be harder for you because you're black. I didn't raise my children to think anything other than you got to hold your own. You got to be responsible and you got to do your thing. And consequently, both of them I'm very proud of. They're doing better in both of my careers. I was a dancer when I was younger, and then a TV writer producer. One of my children is a TV writer producer. She's got an overall deal with ABC. She's doing great. And the younger daughter was a dancer. She traveled all over the world. You name the person, she's danced with them, and now she's a costumer and they work on the same TV show, amazingly enough. And they've worked together in a singing group. They were signed to Sony Records when they were young. So, I'm really proud of my kids, but it came from me going, wow, I live this liberal lifestyle. Now I've got 2 kids, 2 different baby daddies, no education. I'm their role model. This can't be their legacy. So my first stop was church, and then God took it from there. And then I literally learned how to write TV scripts after I put them to bed. And I would stay up all night and I read books and I practiced and I learned, and then I got in the industry. But I just don't know what message people need to hear nowadays, because the hatred is to a fever pitch. And with Trump being reelected, his reelection being on the line, it's escalated to a point that, boy, I'm encouraged by the amount of black conservatives that I'm seeing on a daily basis, that I'm adding onto my Facebook page. It's I didn't see this years ago when I started doing this. How hopeful are you, and what do you think we need to continue to do?
Well, I'm very hopeful, believe it or not. As bad as I describe things are and all of that, I'm at the same time very optimistic about America's future. And the reason why is because I believe that America is going to soon shake off the dross. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have populations of people that are seeing the light. You already have people that have already seen the light, and they're bringing those in. God is actually bringing forth his people at various levels. I remember 3 years before the end of Ali Obama's, I call him Ali Obama, his administration, I was telling folks, fellow Christians, and I said, look, one of my best friends, Ben, he's also in the broadcasting industry. I said, Ben, he was saying it's all over. We're not going to make it to 18. We're done.
I remember feeling that.
And I said, you know what, Ben, I said, you got it all wrong. I said, dude, I know prayer groups that are all over this country. There are millions of people praying for this country and asking forgiveness for the asinine things that have been allowed in this country, starting with abortion, starting with not teaching our children the right things, starting with allowing our children to be influenced by the wrong things in television. I said, there are pockets. I said, I was naming cities where these groups are.
Really?
And oh yeah, and I said, don't be fooled by what you see going on, but tune in to what's happening behind the scenes. God is real famous for working behind the scenes.
Right.
Jeremiah said, God, I'm the only one running around here. It's just, he said, get over yourself. There's 7,000 more, dude.
That's funny.
It's not over till it's over. And besides, you and God are a majority. King David had 300 men and they could kick 10,000 guys behind. We don't need the majority.
Right.
Remember, the Revolutionary War time, America, it was 3% of the population that took on the British Empire. And guess who won?
Right.
Okay? 13% supported it overall, the whole fight. I believe that people are going to be left behind. You're going to see people like yourself and many others that have that same mindset. God is going to be blessing us, blessing our influence, blessing our position. And because God is not done with America, as great as she has been, she has not reached her fullest potential. And God will not allow his word to come back void. God has set America up for a particular mission. God is supposed to be the #1 instrument of spreading freedom and the gospel around the world. She is not finished. Okay? It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a fight, but it's worth it.